Do you recognize this picture?
Yes, that looks like the picture I took of Johnny in July, around July 2013.
Okay, and why did you take this picture?
Because at the time, I was already sensitive. I'd been in a relationship with Johnny for over a year, coming up on 2 years, and I had already noticed that there was this pattern of behavior changes with him that would make my life significantly more complicated or peaceful, difficult, or wonderful, depending on what he was using. And I only could tell what he was using because I would have to look for clues, and he would pass out and get sick and lose control of himself, and then people would pick him up and clean him up and fix it, and he wouldn't either remember, or he would deny it, or he would accuse me of saying that this had happened when it didn't, and there was no one to back me up. There was just his employees and everyone who had been taking care of him, versus my word. And so I started to take pictures to say, look, this is happening. This is, I understood enough about addiction to know that you have to hit rock bottom. Like, you have to have some consequence for your action or for your behavior if you ever change to get better. And it seemed to me like that was not happening. So I noticed a behavior pattern change, and he started to, instead of, fits of rage, he started to pass out a lot and fall asleep, and kind of fall asleep mid-conversation, and it was just a pattern change. So I started to pick up on the clues so I could figure out what I was dealing with.
Your Honor, I'd like to move the admission of Exhibit 1091.
Any objection?
No objection, Your
All right,
Honor.
1091 in evidence. You can publish.
Thank you, Your Honor. And Ms. Heard, and what is depicted in this picture? Please tell the jury.
Johnny passed out on the island where we were vacationing. He had a bit of a stint of sobriety right before this, and it started to change with his friend Paul Bettany. And yeah.
Okay. Now I'm going to ask you, Michelle, can you bring up Defendant's Exhibit 1095? We talked about March 2013 yesterday, and I just wanted to bring this up quickly. Do you recognize this picture?
Yes, that was taken.
Before you go further, did you take this picture?
Yes, I did.
Your Honor, I'd like to move the admission of Defendants 1095.
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, 1095 in evidence. You can publish.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now, Amber, will you please tell the jury why you took this and when you took this?
This was after a several-day bender, a binge of Johnny's. The 22nd of March, which we talked about yesterday, about he tried to burn a painting. He was accusing me of having affairs with a musician, my ex-partner, and he was on these, a drug binge where I saw him no eating, little to no sleep, and he would just use cocaine and drink all day long. Okay. And that would go for a period of time, and then a major blowout, and then he'd get sick and pass out, and then feel really awful, and often, including this time, would start a period of sobriety after that.
Okay. Now I'm going to take you to mid-July 2013, the Tokyo press tour for Lone Ranger. Can you please tell the jury about that particular trip and the events relating to Mr. Depp?
Sure. He was promoting a Lone Ranger, and I had just met his kids at the premiere in Los Angeles shortly before this tour started. they found out about me.
Amber, I'm going to just ask you not to go through that.
Sure.
Just take us to Tokyo, please. Okay?
So I believe we went from that stop to Tokyo with the kids, and he had difficulty with drinking in front of them. He was trying to hide it, and yet he was dealing with some stress around his career. I didn't have a lot of details, but he was drinking at the restaurant, and the kids were kind of, noticing, but not really sure what to make of it.
Objection calls for speculation and hearsay.
She didn't say what they said.
I'll sustain us to the last
Okay.
part of the answer.
Okay, please continue, but don't say what they said. Okay, the kids said.
Anyway, Johnny became upset with me for judging him. He was, it was like I couldn't win if I didn't do anything, if I didn't say anything to him about the drinking, if I didn't acknowledge it, it got worse. If I did acknowledge it, it was my fault and I was nagging. And I get it, I wouldn't like to be told what to do either, so. But it made him really angry, and the kids were on this press tour, and I was just concerned about them. I was concerned about them hearing us. Johnny screamed at me in the hotel room, and all I could think were the kids were in an adjoining room. What if they could hear us? I had just met them, and I didn't want them to think poorly of me and hate me, not knowing what was going on, in our behind closed doors. I remember him. It was name calling, and he eventually passed out.
Do you recall what names he called you? Do you recall what he said?
I heard at this time nagging bitch all the time. Called me a cunt. He even said that he made a mistake with me, and that he didn't want to. That when we touched back down, he'd get rid of me, and I'd go back to. He said some disgusting things to me. I don't know if I need to repeat it.
Okay, let's go. Michelle, can you bring up Defendant's Exhibit 1090? You indicated, I think, that he passed out at the end of that. Did you take this picture?
I did.
Okay. Your Honor, I'd like to move the admission of Defendant's Exhibit 1090.
No objection, Your Honor. Thank you.
1090 in evidence, you can publish.
Thank you. And where was Mr. Depp when you took this picture?
He was passed out with his head in a table in the hotel room, in our hotel room, not the kids' hotel room, in Tokyo, on that press tour.